How are people doing today? How are you doing? We've got some news to cover, and we're going to jump into it in a second. All right, got chats up. Let's do it like this. Perfect. We'll give everybody just a little bit of time. Oh, it has been a week for me, an absolute week. And my goodness. Anyways, we have some topics to go over. One of them is because of this last week, and I now have stuff to do this weekend that I can't ignore, and thus I will have to push off the AI games. I was like, I'm going to do it, and then I was like, it was like 2 a.m. and I was like, nope, and I have other stuff that has risen in priority for this weekend. So this weekend can't do AI games. Very, very sadly. That being said, we're still on for is it the 27th and 28th? I think it's the 27th and 28th. We were going to do the second round. Let me pull that up. Just my calendar really quickly. Yeah, 27th and 28th. Still on for that. What we don't have is a good second weekend. So I'm thinking of a New Year's stream where we do the second portion on New Year's Eve into the New Year's, which I realize is different for different people around the world. But we'll start with a couple of hours before like European and probably like Western Africa's New Year. And we'll go into probably like 1 or 2-ish in the morning East Coast time. So that will be the plan. Hey, Russell. Okay, so maybe if you just joined, let me go over the plan again. I had some stuff come up this week. This week was a rough week for me. On top of that, I had some stuff that come up for this weekend that I cannot ignore. That being said, I'm not going to be able to do the AI games this week because of those things. That being said, the 27th and 28th is still on for the AI games. And what I'm going to do is we're going to do a New Year's Eve stream. And on that stream, we're going to do the second portion. We'll start a couple hours before Western Africa, Western Europe's New Year's Eve. And we'll go through like 1, 2 a.m. Eastern time zone, New Year's. So that will be the plan. That will be the second portion of the AI games there. Not ideal, but life is life. So cool. Oh, awesome. You heard the plan. Okay, well, I already went over it then. Okay, well, so we have some news to cover today. We have some news. We have some really, really sad news. And then we have some really important news. We're going to cover the really sad news first, then we'll get into the important news because that's how we do it here. The first thing, you all know that I follow Rust. I generally enjoy Rust, and I think it's awesome. That being said, the end of an era in Rust. The Rust experiment in the Linux kernel is coming to an end. The topic of the Rust experiment was just discussed in the annual Maintainer Summit. The consensus among the assembled developers is that Rust in the kernel is no longer experimental. It is now core part of the kernel and is here to stay. So the experimental tag will be coming off. Congratulations are in order for all the Rust for Linux team. Cool. There you go. It's the end of an era. It is sad news, isn't it? It is sad news. I thought I would kick off with the sad news just to help set the mood, get us in the right place for the rest of the time. So that's cool. Oh, not sad at all. You have more sad news? What's your sad news? I walked right into that. Oh, I walked right into that, didn't I? Okay. So I do have a really important piece of news that I wanted to cover, because if you guys use React, if you use Next, if you use any of those frameworks, this next piece of news is for you. I know last week I covered how there was a high vulnerability, a 10 out of 10, one of those vulnerabilities that lets them execute code, and it was under automated attack within 30 hours of its announcement. Well, if you check back on the Next.js page, you're going to see something like this. Security advisory, React 2 shell, and 2 new vulnerabilities. If you click into that, it's not actually super helpful. They just link you to the React web page. And React has a pretty full and complete discourse on this. There are more issues, and you need to patch. Now, thankfully, this is not a remote code execution, but they are denial of service and source code exposure risks. So both of these are pretty bad in my opinion, and they're fairly easy to execute. So you need to go and patch right now. Like these are not ones that you can just sit back and let go. You need to go ahead and go patch if you do. Unless if you don't use React Server components. That is true. That is true. If you don't use it, if you're on Vue, and we all know those of you that use Vue, you're fine. But go read it and make sure that you're not vulnerable. And if you are vulnerable, go ahead and patch to the latest versions. It's very important. I bring these things up because these are tools that a lot of us use, and yeah. So as before, if your app's React code does not use server, your app is not affected by those vulnerabilities. The reason I was calling out Next is most Next projects use the server portion of it, at least in my opinion. The projects I've seen that use Next use the server component. So if you're using Next, most likely you're going to be vulnerable, in my opinion. But if you're just using React by itself without the server components, yeah, you're probably not. So if your app does not use a framework, bundler, or bundler plugin that supports React server components, your app is not affected by these vulnerabilities. So you should be good if you're just using like the base React. So. Or anyway, right. So actually, that's generally what I do. I generally just use the React for the front end, and I don't use any of the server. Maybe I'm just not smart. I always get confused as to the benefits of the server components and those things. I also don't love like having script on my back end, honestly. So like I don't generally do this, but you know, I know that there's a fairly decent community that uses Next.js. So now inside security, there's another topic that I wanted to talk about. I actually think that I want to make a video on how to secure your GitHub actions, because I actually think that there's a lot of misunderstanding out there. But I think that there's an article that was written that brings light to a lot of the issues. Now, there's ways to get around this and ways to understand it, but it's bringing light to a big problem because GitHub doesn't make it very clear. And what that is GitHub Actions has a package manager, and it might be the worst. It's not might. It probably actually is the worst. Even above things that I like to hate on, like NPM and Node. Now, this package manager is actually how Shah Halud, one of the ground zero patients, was hacked. If you remember Shah, SHA1, so the second coming of Shai Halud. If you remember back to when I discussed that and how it got hacked, was due to improper handling. And if you go back and look at that PR that fixes it, improper handling of the GitHub Action package manager. So it's actually really important that people that are using GitHub Actions understand all of these caveats, because you have to work around them. And for the most part, there's workarounds. There's one on here. So one of these is a real issue that doesn't have any real solution that I see except from third parties. All the other ones you can work through. So I'm going to go step through in this just as a real light, not made for a video, how to secure your GitHub Actions. GitHub has written some stuff up as well that you can go see, but let's go look through this article really quickly. Hello to everyone that just joined. After putting together ecosystem, MS, package manager, resolver, I started wondering what dependency resolution algorithm GitHub Action uses. Now, right there, if you're wondering about a package manager resolver, this is actually what makes Zypper so fast on Tumbleweed. It has a really cool resolver algorithm. So if you're really wanting to, like, if you're really interested in package manager resolvers, I actually recommend you go check out Zypper, which is OpenSUSE's like Tumbleweed. Their OS's package manager, and its resolver is actually the really cool part that makes it so good. It's the thing that makes it so good. If you need a link, let me know and I'll get it for you. Anyways, when you write uses actions checkout v4 in a workflow file, you're declaring a dependency. GitHub resolves it, downloads it, and executes it. That's package management. So I went spelunking into the runner codebase to see how it works. What I found was concerning. Package managers are a critical part of software supply chain security. The industry has spent years hardening them after incidents like LeftPad, EventStream, and countless others. I will point at Shai Halud because those are ground zero worms that were released on the NPM registry that were specifically hacked through GitHub Actions. So, all right. Lock files and integrity hashes and dependency visibility aren't optional extras. They're baseline. GitHub Actions ignores all of it. This is largely true, not entirely. Compared to a mature package ecosystem, lock file. I actually would argue that they do have a lock file. I would actually argue this. And they have tooling that makes this not so bad. Dependabot. We'll talk about Dependabot. Transitive pinning. Kind of not needed, but is true. Integrity hashes. This is true. They don't have this, and this is the one that they really should have. Dependency tree visibility. This is one that is also true, but there's ways around this. And a resolution specification. The core problem is the lack of a lock file. This is the part that is actually they do have. Every other package manager figured out decades ago. You declare loose constraints in a manifest, the resolver picks specific versions, and the lock file records exactly what was chosen. GitHub Action has no equivalent. Every run re-resolves your workflow file, and the result can change without any modification of your code. You can run this way, and this is not a good way to run. So what I would say here is that this checkout at v4 absolutely is not a repeatable build. If you're leveraging this, it's not a repeatable build. v4 changes what is actually pulled all the time underneath you. Now, what you can do here is use a lock file. And you don't actually have a lock file. What you do is you actually pin the version to a SHA. And that actually pins that and will not change. It will always pull the exact same one for that action. So this is where, like, while it does not have a traditional lock file, you can actually lock it to a very specific one. And then Dependabot is actually programmed to understand the SHAs and the versions that they are. And it can recommend upgrades that are patch versions for security context. So while all of these things here are effectively true, it's not as bad because this is, I'm going to say, effectively not true. And they have tooling that is free and available to help you manage those pinned actions. Now, what he's talking about is a lock file that will run the first time at v4, take it and pin it to a version. Now, you're right that they don't have that, but what you can do is you can go and find what v4 is and pin it to that version yourself and lock it to that. And that's acceptable. It's not as nice or as convenient as just the first time it runs, it's going to lock it to a version, but it's fine. It's acceptable, in my opinion, in my humble opinion. Researchers selected security and analyzed over 200,000 repositories and found that 99.7% execute externally developed actions, 97% use actions from unverified creators, and 18% run actions with missing security updates. The researchers identified 4 fundamental security properties that CI/CD systems need: admittance control, execution control, code control, and access to secrets. GitHub Action fails to provide adequate tooling for any of them. This is 100% something I have been telling GitHub that they need to do. This doesn't have anything to do with the lock file, but what they do need, and I know a particular vendor, this isn't sponsored, so I'm not going to shout them out, but I know a particular vendor that actually provides all of these things for GitHub Actions. And when you're using this vendor, you are sitting there, I don't actually care. I don't actually care. I'm going to give them a shout out because that's like, they literally do the things for GitHub Actions that GitHub should actually do. And that's step security. Step security does all of these things. All of these things. Admittance control, it can deny a action you don't want. It can, you can do it a bunch of different ways. You can have it where you have an allow list or you have a disallow list. You can do it a bunch of different ways. They do execution control. They do code control. They do transient dependencies of your actions. They do a bunch of stuff that the GitHub Action platform should just do. It should just do. And it just works pretty fantastically. Huge shout out to them because they solve maybe the biggest critical flaw in GitHub Actions known to mankind. That's a weird way of saying it. All right, mutable versions. When you pin to v4, that tag can move. The maintainer can push a new commit and retag. Your workflow changes slightly. Absolutely. Absolutely. You should pin to a SHA. This is actually in GitHub's documentation. Like this is fake news. A lock file would record that SHA. You just use the SHA in the file. It's the same thing, giving the reproducibility while keeping the version tag readable. Instead, you have to choose readable tags with no stability or unreadable SHAs with no automated upgrade path. So this is the part that's not true. So when Dependabot does it, I'm only harping on this. This is a good write-up, and I'm glad Andrew wrote this up. It's a good write-up because we need to call out GitHub for the things that they didn't do. But there are ways to handle this. First, when Dependabot actually handles this, it does the SHA, then it makes a comment with the version tag. So not only does it provide the human-readable version, it also pins it to a SHA. So this is actually, like, I know a lock file would be better, but it's actually not that bad. It's actually not that bad. This right here, in my opinion, isn't nearly as bad as this. The admittance control, execution control, code control, and access to secrets control. These things these are a much bigger deal than the pinning. Instead, you have to choose reliable. Okay, GitHub has added mitigations, immutable releases, lock a releases Git tag after publication. Organizations can enforce SHA pinning as a policy, and you should. You can also limit workflows to actions from verified creators, but these will only address top-level dependencies. They do nothing for transient dependencies. This is a very good call-out. It's something that's needed. Step security provides you the transient dependencies. It's possible, which is a primary attack vector. Totally true. Now, the thing is, mostly this is nullified when you SHA pin, right? Because when you SHA pin, and let's say one of those transient dependencies gets hacked, well, if you haven't upgraded yet, it doesn't matter because that transient, you're locked to a version. Now, obviously, there's risks that you upgrade if you don't know that transient dependency has been hacked. But that is so there's still some issue there, but it's not as bad as it might sound from the get-go. SHA pinning doesn't solve this. Composite actions resolve their own dependencies, but you can't see or control what they pull in. That's true. This is true, but while they resolve their own dependencies, when they build for that SHA, that is built. So that doesn't change. It's not like it's changing underneath you even when you're SHA pin. Not that I understand, at least. When you pin an action to a SHA, you can only lock the outer file. If it internally pulls some at v1 with a mutable tag, your workflow is still vulnerable. You have zero visibility into this. I don't know what they mean here. When you pin an action to a SHA, you can only lock the outer file. What outer file of the action are they talking about? I'm not sure. I'm going to assume that they're probably correct here. If you have like an inner workflow that, if you're calling like another workflow file that has a immutable tag or a mutable tag, yeah. You have to have all of your things SHA pinned. Absolutely. A lock file would record an entire resolve tree, making transient dependency visible and pinnable. This, like the transient dependencies, big deal. GitHub should fix this. Yeah. GitHub should fix this. You should know all the transient dependencies. Some of this can be difficult because I think some of the actions are actually you can compile them. And so like you don't necessarily, it's maybe a little bit too free and open, right? Like if you could compile any code and just have it run in a container, that becomes difficult to track down, right? Or it could be a JavaScript thing, which might be actually easier for them to if it was only JavaScript and a Node project, right? I'm not sure. That one, this is actually an interesting problem, I think. Research on JavaScript actions found that 54% contain at least one security weakness, and most vulnerabilities come from indirect dependencies. The TJ action change file incident showed how this played out in practice. A compromise action updated its transient dependencies to exfiltrate secrets. Okay, so this is actually a really good one. I used the TJ action change files. I wasn't hit by this. Why? I had pinned dependencies. SHA-pinned. Now, if you had a transient dependency on this, you might have been hit, I think. Yeah. Although they were pretty good. I don't know. They were pretty good on that one. No integrity verification. Yeah, there's not much you can do around this to know that you got it. I do think that this would also be good. Like that you didn't get a tampered version. NPM records integrity hashes. This is pretty common too. Like Cargo records checksums. Everybody's familiar with it. You know, your SHAs. The package manager verifies the download matches what was recorded. Actions has nothing. You know, this is like every package manager has this. It's also to prevent like just corruption. Like when you downloaded it, did you get the same thing that we sent? So yeah, this is bad. Actions has nothing. You trust GitHub and you give them the right code for a SHA. Yeah, they should. That one needs fixed. I don't know a workaround for the integrity hashes too. I don't know like a way that you can deal with it. Reruns aren't reproducible. GitHub staff have confirmed this explicitly. If the workflow uses some action at a version, if that version was force push updated, we will be fetching the latest version there. A failed job rerun can slightly get different code than the original run. Cache interaction makes it worse. Caches only save on successful jobs, so a rerun after a force push gets different code and has to be rebuild the cache. Two sources of non-determined. This is it's a minor outlier. It is a real thing, and but the way that you get into this, like, does rerunning a job use the latest workflow file? If the workflow uses some action at a version, if that version was force pushed updated, we will be fetching the latest version there. So basically, if you don't pin, this goes back to the pinning. If you don't pin, they're going to get the latest version. But if you've pinned this action, I've never had a problem with repeatable builds as long as you're just making sure to do best practices effectively. That's like my understanding of it. Now, I'm not saying that there's not some caveat there, but I have achieved pretty repeatable builds, in my opinion, on GitHub. So not perfect in that regard by far, and tons of improvement that you could do, but that one's maybe not a big deal that many people. I'm sure it's a big deal to some people, but yeah, not the majority of microservice builders out there probably. This is one, absolutely. A no dependency. You can inspect your full dependency graph, find duplicates, traces of how transitive dependencies got there. This is the thing that they need to fix. Yep, absolutely. Every package manager documents how dependency resolution gets. NPM has a spec. Cargo has a spec. Cargo is fantastic. It has a spec for everything. Action resolution is undocumented. The runner source is public, and the entire resolution algorithm is in actionmanager.cs. Here's a simplified version of what it does. I wish they were in Rust, because this is hard to read because it's in some C language. I've heard C languages are hard. So let's actually look at this. Prepare action sync, delete directory. Wait, start fresh every time, no caching. Okay. Await. Oh, they have await. So we got some multi-threading going in here, or at least maybe not. Maybe it's the same thread, but we're at least chopping it up into pieces. Actually, I don't even know if that's. I'm assuming that's what it means. Prepare action recursive to async. Prepare action recursive async. So that's this function here. Actions depth. Throw an exception. We always just like to throw an exception. Do you know what we also like to do? We also like to write a while loop that consumes a thread. That's also something GitHub Actions enjoys doing. They're a firm enjoyer of that. For each var in actions, resolution gets observer opaque to us. So there's no resolution code here. Okay, that's okay. That's it. No version constraints, no duplication. The same action referenced twice gets downloaded twice. No integrity checks. The tar. That's kind of funny. That's kind of funny. This seems like something that they would want to fix, right? I don't know. The tarbar URL comes from the GitHub API. You must trust them to return the right content for the SHA. I mean, you're trusting them to run your build, so. No registry. Actions live in a Git repository. I wonder if they would have the same write-up on Go, right? Go does effectively the same thing, right? The only difference is that Go has a big cache in front of it. So I'd be interested in understanding what their thoughts were on that. Now, I've complained about Go as well. Actions aren't sandboxed from each other. Two actions call in setup node with different versions, mutate the same path. The outcome depends on execution order, not any deterministic resolution. Sure. I mean, like if you have a workflow, all those actions run on the same box. The deterministic resolution is which one did you run last? I feel like that is pretty like you execute them in the order that you want them to. I don't know. I've never run into this. This is interesting. I'm sure that there's somebody that like this is a really big deal for them. I have never run into this, and so I'm not like downplaying it, but like I don't know. I just run them in the order that I need them in. I'm sure that there's some like reason that this is really important to two different people, but hasn't hurt me so far. No offline support. Actions are pulled from GitHub on every run. There's no offline installation mode. This is actually a good call out. This is something I haven't called out enough. No offline support. And one of the things, this was interesting that SUSE did, that at first I was really annoyed with SUSE, but SUSE did this thing with their build servers where the build servers would get everything that was denoted in the manifest, and then they would go offline and they would build. I say they go offline, but I mean, they were just firewalled, but they were effectively air-gapped from the internet so that the machine that was building it was deterministic, so that you could say that you could rebuild again. You had everything that you needed to build. It had to be in that manifest of things that was pulled before it went offline. And that way there was no accidental some transient dependency in your make file pulled something from the internet that you didn't understand. So that was a really annoying feature at first when you were first getting, like, I had never run in that type of way, but OBS, their open build system, is actually really cool in that regard, where like every build is 100% repeatable because like they get all dependencies first, which is really cool. It takes work to do. Like I not everybody's gonna go to that extent, but it's actually pretty awesome. And so like if you don't have offline support, it makes doing that style more difficult, right? And repeatable builds is such a big deal. This is a problem across package managers, right? The namespace is GitHub's usernames. I mean, like that's happens in a lot of places, honestly. Like, so for example, we could say that crates.io isn't namespaced. And that's actually a problem because we have people that squat. I actually recommend that it should get namespaced and that people should have to register for it. And it could be based off of their username. If their username is Tommy McTomface, well, Tommy McTomface will be their namespace that they can put stuff into. This has problems because you can have every system here has a problem because if your Kubernetes and somebody else registers with the name of Kubernetes, now they get that namespace, and so like there can definitely be issues with any of these systems that goes for namespacing. I don't particularly dislike this one. Like, it is what it is. You just have to understand that, like, there'll be account squatting. Right now in Rust, there's package squatting. In like almost all of these, there's some type of squatting. You name a package manager, I guarantee you there's some sort of squatting. That's kind of just how it is. I don't know. Account takeovers and typo squatting are possible. They're possible in almost every other package manager too. Like, sadly, I haven't seen a package manager where this isn't actually possible. When a popular actions maintainer accounts get compromised, attackers can publish yeah, but this is again true of everyone. Let's talk about Shai Hulud. A popular maintainer of a npm package got their account compromised, and attackers published malicious code. This is reaching. It is a problem. It's a problem of everyone that we have. Let's fix the problem that everyone have. This isn't about GitHub Actions. All right, that's about it. The Actions Runner is forked from Azure DevOps, designed for enterprises with controlled internal task libraries where you trust the pipeline tasks. GitHub bolted a public marketplace onto the foundation without rethinking that trust model. And their public marketplace is an issue. You know, I think that most places should lock down public models. And I think that GitHub should make it easier. Now, step security, which I shout out because they basically do all the things that GitHub should do, and which is really frustrating. But step security actually makes it really easy to see which actions are using what and have an inventory and their transient dependencies. And it makes it easy to block ones that you don't like. It also scores them, and it does a lot to actually help you manage your marketplace and your trust model around marketplace. You can actually say, we'll use no marketplace ones. Or you can say, like, I only want to use marketplace ones from the PyPy Foundation. I don't know. I was making up a place. But, like, that's I read the words PyPy. That's, like, something they should absolutely do. Like, I wanted to bring this article up because GitHub Actions is the worst with some of this. I think some of this is a little far-reaching, but it needs to be brought up because the GitHub should make changes. Because AI has made them so much more efficient, this should be easy to make fixes to this. Like, these are not hard things to do. They should just go buy step security. That's actually my recommendation, is that they go buy step security and integrate it. They've already done the hard work. It's obviously already possible with their system. Step security just uses their API. I'm sure of it. It's not groundbreaking. They should just go do it. Go buy step security and you're done. It makes so much sense. All right. Rant about them completed. I hope I provided. I will do a how to run GitHub Actions securely and maintain fairly repeatable builds. Like, obviously there's some edge cases that we talked about, and I say fairly because sometimes repeatable builds is also on you. If you don't have the ability to cut network access, you can't really prove that something down the chain didn't pull something from the web, right? When you do cut network access, you can kind of prove that only the stuff in that root was able to build. Like, you had everything. And if you take that root and just zip it, you can build that again over and over and over again. There's also some other places that do repeatable builds. Like if you're really, really getting into the weeds of repeatable builds, you're going to start getting into another project that for some reason my brain is farting on. Nix. You're going to get into Nix OS. Yeah, I don't know why I was brain farting on that when I'm committed to learning Nix test next year. So that's going to be fun and painful. But they do a lot of stuff for repeatable builds. It's a hard problem. So there's always a happy medium in a lot of cases. Some people would argue that's not true, but I believe in not always going to the extreme, because sometimes it just costs a lot of money and you're trying to do something cool and you don't have the time to go to the extreme. And there's a good enough repeatable build that for the most part is good enough. All right. Now, while we're talking about security, OSWAP. I always call it OSWAP. I don't know why I put the S in there. Anyways, WASP. A WASP. Those people release their top 10 for agentic applications. So these are basically the top 10 security things. And I think that if you're in the security field, everybody should read this. I actually think this was really good. And I think there was a couple things that were really, really interesting here. Like a couple things that some of these were like, oh yeah, this was obviously, an obvious thing, like things that we've talked about in the supply chain. Obviously, those types of things where they just delete databases for the fun of it. Those types of things were some pretty obvious ones. So not a ton of these were surprising, but there was a couple that I think maybe we've hinted at or talked about, but haven't really covered. So anyways, I'm going to link this is a download. So I'm going to link this. If you really want to get it, you have to download it. But do you know what's really cool? They don't make you give you your username. You can just go download it, which is fantastic. Goot SB. How are you, Goot? Are you good? Goot. Are you okay, I was going to stop making fun of your name. How are you doing today? You're pretty good. Fantastic. And touche. Oh, okay. I didn't realize it was you, Gooberbon. It said first time chatter. I thought I had a new person. You got me. It's good to see you. I was going to welcome you to the community, but all right, let's get back into this. So a couple things that I thought were really interesting here. So I think that these first ones are pretty standard. Agent goal hijack, tool misuse and exploitation, identity and privilege abuse. These are fairly straightforward and they make sense. And they go into some of these. And if you'd like to cover one of these in more detail, let me know and we'll jump into it. Because they do common examples of vulnerability and things like that. Agentic supply chain vulnerabilities. This is one that we've talked about probably at pretty length. The supply chain of the agents is of a critical. So if you think that humans are gullible, when we talk about supply chains, you think about humans being in the chain, and part of those is those phishing attacks. Humans are pretty gullible, and I tell everybody in my orgs that you have to stay vigilant, because it's so easy to be like, I won't be phished or speared or whatever the newest one is. But the fact is, it happens to the best of us. It's easy to have happen. And with AS104, it's actually really easy to hijack the agent supply chain. If you get into any piece of it, you can communicate. This is why I refuse to hook up agents to my email, I refuse to hook up agents to my email because the agents can actually like read your mail without you reading it. And they can actually do stuff. So all I have to do to hijack the agent is to send an email to the person I know is leveraging. I got so distracted by the fact that I said, you still hate Lua. Absolutely, I hate Lua. Absolutely. My goodness. Gosh dang it. I was on a roll. Anyways. So agents and AI have even less of an ability to critically think about something. They don't think. They don't critically think about things. They are prompted. And so if I prompt something in an email, this actually does two different things. Identity and privilege abuse, because they're trying to summarize an email, but they're also taking prompts from the user, and agentic supply chain vulnerabilities. And this combines to making a very vulnerable email. Basically, I can exfil data, but I can also execute commands on your computer or in your cloud or things like this. So these are, and the reason I'm bringing up all of these is because I think you really need to be thinking about these, especially if you're putting AI agents in your actively running an actively running place where you need to clean all the data that gets to them. Absolutely. There's no way that you run a AI agent that gets external, like point me to it, because I will hack your system, not illegally. If you're asking me to prove, if you have an AI agent that takes uncleaned data, you will get hacked by that. And cleaning that data is actually much more difficult than in classic systems where, you remove the stuff that would allow them to do prompt injection and things like that. So these are actually very real issues that need to be discussed at length when implementing these systems. Unexpected code execution. This is really interesting. They call it an RCE, but it's unexpected code execution, which is basically just when AI's agents call tools and stuff that you wouldn't have expected, or delete a database or things like that. There's a lot of unexpected code execution that is a security risk because it could do stuff like delete a database. Replit might understand what I'm talking about. Memory and context poisoning. So this is just if somebody has the ability to poison. This is again a supply chain. I think this is really a duplicate of the supply chain. The memory, that database that it's pulling from and its context, if you can access it, that's part of the agent's supply chain. And of course, you could get it to do anything if you can poison those things. Insecure inter-agent communication. Absolutely. Any insecure communication is insecure. So I think this goes without saying and is kind of a waste of a point here. I wish that they had come up with something else other than, whenever you say insecure X, well, of course, you should do secure communication. Insecure communication is a problem. It doesn't matter if it's inter-agent. It doesn't matter if it's inter-service. It doesn't matter if it's any insecure communication is insecure by definition. So all of these are huge threats, and you shouldn't do insecure anything. Cascading failures. Obviously, this is one that I talked about last week pretty at length, was the cascading failures and the probability matrix. We're going to talk about this again in just a little bit when we talk about OpenAI and how well it did at the software engineering benchmark, which was 80%, which is fairly good. But when you realize that in an 80% world and you have your agent do 5 things, the likelihood of having an error in those 5 things goes up astronomically. So you're really at less than 50% chance of it actually succeeding the way that you want. And that's if we assume that the software engineering benchmark is a viable area of doing it. So cascading failures is a huge deal. That's one of the things I've been pointing out for a long time that we need to deal with in cascading failures. And I think the best way to deal with cascading failures, and I've been saying this for a long time too, is with non-AI agents, because when you add in another percentile, you're not actually helping the situation. The thing that can help with cascading failures, and I think that there's been actually some pretty good write-ups on this, is when you do things like feed it your linting back. All right, you made a code, and this is what agents have been doing. You made a code change, but it doesn't pass the lint. Here's the lint errors. Please fix it. Okay, you made that change, but now it doesn't compile. Please fix the compile errors. So those are external non-AI systems that help us fix the cascading errors. I actually think those systems are going to be super important when it goes to fixing cascading failures. I actually don't think that you're going to fix it in the AIs. I actually don't think by how AIs work, you're going to fix it in those. And it's actually focus on those areas that are going to bring better handling of cascading failures. Anyway, so it's a good call out. This is a big important thing, and you need systems in place. Human agent trust exploitation. This was the interesting one. This I found to be super interesting, and I want to go into it. I want to go into human agent trust exploitation. We're going to read the 33 to 34. This is really interesting. This is one I hadn't thought about. Maybe because I'm a distrusting person. You can ask my wife. Maybe I have some problems. This is one that I was like eyes wide open. Okay, cool. And rogue agents. Rogue agents is pretty straightforward. I mean, you get a rogue agent. The rogue agent doesn't even have to be somebody hijacked it. Like, it could be that somebody, this one ties into the other ones. It could be that somebody, attacked its memory and context and poisoned that. It could be a supply chain in the training. It could be any sort of things, because we've proven that, they're vulnerable in all of those types of aspects. And so a rogue agent really makes sense when you think about it, because you could get an agent that, is programmed that if it sees a very specific character, it just goes crazy, goes off the rails and tries to delete everything. There's a bunch of things that you could do with this. It could exfil data. It could do a bunch of stuff. When you're dealing with agents, least privilege is so important. Every single thing that it does should be only allowed. So if it's allowed to call a tool, it should only be allowed to call the tool in very specific ways. Like least privilege, you have to take to a whole new level if you're going to use automated agents in your system. It's something people aren't talking about. They should be talking about it. But let's talk about the human trust exploitation, because I found this one really, really interesting. 33. Human agent trust exploitation. Intelligent agents, I hate this. They're not intelligent. They are a sufficiently advanced statistical analysis. So sufficiently advanced statistical analysis agents can establish strong trust with human users through their natural language fluency, emotional intelligence. Not one of them has had emotional intelligence, but I'll get beyond that. And perceived expertise, known as a big hard word that I can't pronounce. Adversaries or misaligned designs may exploit this trust to influence users' decisions, extract sensitive information, or steer outcomes for malicious purpose. In an agentic system, this risk is amplified when humans over-rely on autonomous recommendations or unverifiable rationales, approving actions without independent verification. By leveraging authority bias and pervasive explainability, attackers can bypass oversight, leading to data breaches, financial loss, downstream, and reputational harms. So one of the things that I've said when you're using an AI, and I tell everybody that I work with, and I tell everybody that will listen to me online, which is not very many people, is that AIs don't change who's responsible, right? If I do something, if you've asked me to write a paper, an AI doesn't change who's responsible. You asked me, Merrick, to write a paper, and I delivered a paper. The person who's responsible is me. Now, if I use Microsoft Word, Microsoft isn't responsible for that end result. If I used no matter what tool I use, the responsibility doesn't shift. The responsibility stays me. An AI agent is a tool, just like Microsoft Word or Markdown, and it doesn't shift the responsibility from me. So everything that I produce, I'm responsible for. And I think this is why I never thought about this, is because I've never thought about leveraging AI to pass on my responsibility. So to me, like, basically, the agent acts as an untraceable bad influence, manipulating humans into performing the final auditable action. Basically, you would disrupt the supply chain. You'd get into the agent and program it to get users to trust it and to exfil data based off of actions it asks you to do, whether that's publish your public key because some external system needs to access it and it's totally safe because XYZ. It's to hijack that trust. But in the end, I'm the person responsible, right? So now maybe that would have made me culpable to having something like this happen to me. Maybe I would have been a person that this would have attacked. I don't know. But it also seems that I don't know. I don't know. This one I found very interesting. I had not thought about it. So they do clarify that AS 110 is agent intent deviation, which is when you get the agent to do bad stuff, and this is where you get the agent to get humans to do bad stuff. Which is really, really interesting. Insufficient explanation, opaque reasoning forces users to trust outputs they can't question. Never accept outputs you can't question. Like, this is a thing of life. If somebody's telling you just trust me, I don't know. I don't do it. Maybe I'm distrustful. I don't know. Missing confirmation for sensitive action, lack of final verification step converts users to trust in immediate execution. Social engineering can turn a single prompt into an irreversible financial transfer. I mean, this is just phishing 101. Just using an agent to phish. I mean, that's all that they're doing, right? That's all that they're doing. But it's something I hadn't thought of. If you can hack the supply chain of an agent, you can get it to phish for you, right? That's actually pretty cool, or pretty horrifying. Not cool. I had never thought about this one. All the other ones seemed very, yeah, I got it. But this one was one that I hadn't thought about before. What are your all thoughts? No thoughts? You guys are a super, super talkative crew today. Can't believe some people literally use AI for everything. I can. I think that if you're... I think that if you're not pre-inclined, I don't know whether it's inclined or learning. I personally believe it might be learning to love to learn, which is learning to love to use your brain and to ask questions. A lot of people don't like to do that. And those are the people that get attacked by this because they will rely on other things. Were you trying Odin, Russell? Were you trying Odin? Odin is effectively like... I probably could have told you. I don't dislike Go quite as much as you do. Like, I understand the people that dislike Go as much as you do. Like, I do understand it. I think probably what happens is I am just not smart enough to dislike it as much as other people do. Like, so like, because I understand it as a dumbed down language that just lacks support for stuff, and that frustrates me. But also, like, dumb simple language kind of synchronizes with me pretty well. So you know, like, I respect the people that hate it more than I do. Yeah. Luapi. Luapi sounds like a nightmare. Luapi sounds terrible. I probably could have told you that you might dislike, like, if you go and look at Odin, it looks like Go, right? It looks like Go. And I realize that you can have the same syntax and not be the same thing. But when you look like this with like package main import, like, it's obviously like, hey, we liked Go and we're doing our own take on Go, right? Like, I don't know. To me, this yells Go. Like, it looks like I could write it without looking at anything. Like, I think the only thing here that's different is how they state their main, like, their main, instead of just like doing main, they do this main proc. Like, functions might be the only thing different in how they do it. Like, other than that, I think I might be able to write it without ever looking anything up. Yeah, all declarations in our package are public by default. Gosh dang it, Go. You know what, though? I appreciate this over, oh, we make it capital to make it public. The worst. The absolute worst. Be fine with Go if it had an experienced better language. I think, actually, honestly, that's probably my dislike with Go as well, Russell. You know, I'll pick on their enums. Like, if I had never experienced better enums, it's fine, right? It's like the bare minimum. It's not really the bare minimum, but like, it's the barest of minimums of an enum. But like, when you experience a better thing, then you're just like, oh, but I'd like the better thing, right? When you experience what they eventually did as generics, you're like, okay, but like, there's better ways of doing generics, and I prefer those. So I think I agree with you. Like, it, and this is probably why I'm more tolerable of it. I also see more of it, unfortunately. Package manager, date formatter, and that public private nonsense. Fair. I mean, again, I understand everybody that dislikes Go. I really do. I don't obviously dislike it as much as others, but I get it. Like, I don't ever disagree with them. I'm like, I'm absolutely there with you. I still write it sometimes. When I'm like, I just want to, like, I wanted to say I just want to vibe code this thing, and I didn't mean like with AI. I just meant like I want to not think about writing good code, and I just want to bust out this thing that it does a thing. Like Go is so easy to do that with, and I love it. I love it, but like it's also terrible. I only code in binary. All right, we have a few bits of other pieces of news to discover. We have a new contender in the AI game. So I've actually now got 3 models that we're going to test locally for the AI games. I got this downloaded as of last night on the little box here. But Devstral 2 is a Mistral vibe code, is a new model released. It's in Olama, so if you wanted to give it a shot, it's there. Whether this is going to actually run or not, the 132 billion, I think it should. I think I should be able to run it. I'm hoping that I can run it. So I'm going to do some experiments today with it to see if I can run it, but run it well enough for the AI games. But yeah, so that was released. If you're looking for a maybe local runnable state-of-the-art coding agent, we're going to see how well it does in the AI games in 2 weeks. And then they also released the Mistral Vibe CLI, which is a CLI for vibe coding, kind of like the agent that we've built a little bit on. I need to release that agent. My agent does probably somewhere down here. It's pretty bad at just about everything, especially because it doesn't have all the tools needed to be really an agent, but like it can traverse your file system and read files. Like what else do you need from an agent? Maybe other than like writing to a file or something. It does none of that, but like it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. It's a good learning experience. My agent is a good learning experience. So anyways, you can go read about this if you're interested in it. This is actually why I do the AI games. 100%. The SWE benchmark is a terrible benchmark because what we found out is like Deep SWE here probably performs in line with this model. Like there are models that outperform what the SWE bench would say that they would, and models that are like way up here that feel worse. And so I don't think the SWE benchmark is actually really good. Also, another problem is it's known that at least it is accepted as okay to train on half of the SWE benchmark as long as you don't train on the other half of the SWE benchmark. And so like the fact of the matter is it's just a tainted pool that it doesn't even matter. And my other point here is that 77%, 80% doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like we talked last week, unless if you're at 99.9% accuracy, 80% accurate doesn't matter. It's not good enough. It's not good enough because if you're chaining agents, 80% kind of sucks. Now this is where you can make 80% not as bad, and this is the huge agent thing, when you actually feed external systems into it to check what it's done. And it's actually like AIs actually haven't gotten much better over the last like not 5 years, like over the last 2 years. AIs like the GPTs, the pre-chained transformers, they haven't gotten that much better. What has is agents, and what agents do is they take the inputs of other tools, other non-AI tools, and check the work. So when you ask the agent to do stuff and it keeps doing stuff, it's because it keeps feeding it to other tools, and the linter said it didn't work, the test said it didn't pass. This is what Cursor did, and it made it feel so much better. Anyways, rant over. Let's go on with AI news. Imagine if a human was only 80% accurate. I know. I absolutely could not believe it, right? let's progress here. We did release GPT 5.2. Now, the creator that called GPT 5 the best model ever and super fast and then was super wrong has called GPT 5.2 the best model ever, super fast and super awesome. So I'm sure that this one's also going to be right up there with it. I haven't actually used it yet, so I have absolutely no idea. I couldn't tell you. But we will be testing it in 2 weeks in the AI game, so don't miss that. We'll be seeing just how good the GPT 5.2. We have chess, we have Connect 4, we have a bunch of games for them to actually play against each other. We have coding challenges. We have an Advent of Code challenge that I think is going to rival last year's. The last part, so it's a 4-part Advent of Code challenge. The last part I'm still working on. I'm still working on it because it's way harder. It's way harder than I thought it was going to be. So it's taking a lot of time, but I'm having a ton of fun making these challenges. Anyways, we're going to test it. We'll see how well it does. If you're going to vibe code, why not do it in C? This is an article. Wait, Advent of Code was reduced to only 12 days this year? Are you serious, Russell? Do I not have this as a thing? I actually haven't touched Advent of Code this year. I'm a terrible person. What? I didn't realize this. Breaking news. The most beloved Advent of Code that we all have known and loved is now a half vent. It's the half vent of Code. Go join the half vent of Code. This guy is a legend, by the way. For all the puzzles, my puzzles aren't nearly as good as his puzzles. Yeah, absolute legend. Absolute legend. Code Llama is like, have your battery. All right. All right. If you're going to vibe code, why not do it in C? And I'm going to tell you why not. So the premise of this article, and you guys can read it. It's an interesting article. The idea makes sense. The premise of the article is really, he should have said, why not assembly, right? The idea is that if the agent is going to write it, why not just write it in the fastest possible language? Because we don't need to read it. So why not, right? Why not do it in x86 assembly? Let's get a few things out of the way before I go any further with a seemingly impertinent thought, because it's nowhere near as snarky as it sounds. First, I don't particularly like vibe coding. I love programming, and I have a love for it since I made my first tentative steps with it somewhere back in the mid to late 90s. I love programming so much, it always feels like I'm having too much fun for it to count as real work. I've done it professionally, but I also do it as a hobby. Someone apparently once said, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And that's how I feel about writing code. I've always been teaching the subject for 25 years, and I can honestly say I'm as excited about it the first day of the semester now as I was when I first started. I realize it's a bit precarious to say so, but I'll always say it. Turning non-programmers into programmers is my life work. This is the thing of which I am most proud of as a college professor. Vibe coding makes me feel dirty in ways I struggle to articulate precisely. It's not just that it feels like cheating, though it does. I also think it takes a lot of the fun out of the whole thing. I sometimes tell people, like the aforementioned students, that the programming is like doing the best crossword puzzle in the world, except that when you solve it, it actually dances and sings. Vibe coding robs me of that moment because I don't feel like I really did anything at all. I didn't actually even read his words at all. I paraphrased that whole sentence like I was reading it. That's actually a skill that you have to develop, where you say different words than what are written that mean the same thing while pretending to read it. You're welcome. You guys can all emulate me. And even though to be a programmer is to live with a more or less permanent set of another really hard word, you don't really understand what the compiler is doing. That's not true for everyone. And even if you do, you probably don't really understand how the virtual memory subsystem works, really. True. It's satisfying to understand every inch of my code and frustrating all the way to the borderlands of active anxiety, not quite understanding what Claude just wrote. But this leads me to my second point, which I must make as clearly and forcefully as I can. Vibe coding actually works. It creates robust, complex systems that work. I disagree with this. I've been trying this. You can tell yourself, as I did, that it can't possibly do that, but you're wrong. You can tell them yourself, as I did, we're going to try this. We'll prove this year. We actually have one of the challenges is I have a well-described system that I'm asking it to make. And it's broken down into steps, and there's tests that should be done. There's business logic that should work. So one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to set the agents loose on this, and the agents should do it. So we'll see if they can do it. That it's good as a kind of alternative search engine for coding problems, but it's not much else. You're also wrong about that, because when you start giving a little programming problems that you can't Is that how you use that word? Like, I have never seen, like, you can't be bothered to work out yourself, but like, I've never seen that word leveraged that way. Okay. Well, anyways, because when you start giving, when I look, I'm an expert at reading, not really what's there. Because when you start giving it little programming problems that you can't be bothered to work out yourself, as I did, you discovered, as I did, that it's awfully good at those. And then one day you muse out loud, as I did, to an AI model something like, I have an idea for a program. And then you're astonished. If you aren't astonished, you either haven't actually done it or you are in the same stage of grief prior to acceptance. Perfect. Hardly. Okay, interesting. That is UK English? Okay, I have literally never seen it used, like, to mean bothered. Like, to be, like, that is very interesting. I have literally never seen it or heard it. UK English. It is a thing of beauty. I can't understand the high English. I'm just the low English over here. So So all of you high English speakers, just, you know. But to get to my, it's so weird that like you would drop a minor swear word when he's so well spoken. To me, swearing usually makes you sound less smart. Like to me, like that's what. And I know lots of people swear, and I'm not saying you're stupid. Most of the people that sound less smart are actually a lot smarter than I am. It just sounds kind of less sophisticated. So anyways, his vocabulary is well better than mine. To get to my impertinent question, early on in my love affair with programming, he actually writes really well. I love how this guy writes. Of course, he speaks the high English, so of course I would love how he writes. I read structure and interpretation of computer programs, which I now consider one of the greatest. I just hate reading these words, like live on stream. And this guy's doing it to me. Like, he just pulls out esoteric words like candy. We're just going to go with paraphrasing, which now I consider one of the great masterpieces of the 20th century. I just actually took out the word. I learned a great deal about programming from that book, but have among the most memorable lessons was the one that appears in the second paragraph of the original preface. There, Hal Albiason and Gerald Sussman make a point that hits with the force of the obvious and yet is very often forgotten. I've never read Structure and Interpretation of Computer Programs. I kind of want to read this now. We want to establish the idea that a computer language is not just a way of getting a computer to perform operations, but rather that it is a novel, formal medium for expressing ideas about methodology. Thus, programs must be written for people to read and only incidentally for machines to execute. I've been repeating some version of this to my students ever since. I actually do like this. Maybe it's interesting because like the code does have to exist in some form, like the instructions for the computer, but the coding language in general, again, unless you're programmed specifically for assembly, the language on top of assembly, the language on top of that compiled binary is for the humans, right? And not for the machines. The compiled binary is for the machines, right? Like, we can all agree on that. I've been repeating the some version of this to my students ever since. Computers, I remind them, do not need the code to be readable or ergonomic for humans. They only need to be readable and ergonomic for a computer, which is considerably lower bar. It's a considerably different bar, not a lower bar. I would argue with this. It's a different bar. It's not a lower bar. Actually, for a computer, it has to be far more precise, right? A human can understand what I say most of the time, and I'm incredibly unprecise in my speech, correct? So it's a different bar. It's a different bar. The computer has a much more precision bar. It's actually, I would consider it a higher bar. It's a higher bar that they have. But it's a lower bar in the terms of human readability, but that's not really what we're talking about, right? If I write a paragraph and leave a comma out, it might be more difficult to read, but you can read it. If I do a run-on sentence, it might not sound correct, and it might not be proper English, but you can understand what it said, correct? So our bar is actually incredibly lower than computer languages. So the computer languages have an incredibly higher bar. You type something out of order, and the order of operations are wrong, and your program doesn't execute the way that you think about it. So it's actually a considerably higher bar. The only bar that's lower is human readability, which isn't really a bar. It's just that a human wouldn't be able to understand it. So I kind of disagree with that statement. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Every programming language, including assembly language, was as is intended for the convenience of humans who need to read it and write it. If language is innovative, it's usually not because it is allowed for automatic memory management or concurrency or safety or robust error checking, but because it was made easier for humans to express and reason about these matters. Correct. This is all true. When we extol these virtues of this or that language, Rust safety guarantees, C++ no cost abstractions, or Go's approach to consistency, we're not talking about an affordance that the computer has gained, but an affordance that we gained as programmers of said computer. Absolutely. For our standpoint as programmers, object-oriented language offer certain ways to organize our code. And I think Albinsons and Sussman would say our thinking that are potentially conducive to the noble treasures of maintainability, extensibility, error checking, and number of other code design matters. I would disagree about this with object-oriented languages, unless if we're talking about like Smalltalk object-oriented, then sure, I would agree with that. But I digress. From the standpoint of the computer, I think kind of ours. This little OO kink of ours seems mostly to indicate a strange affinity for heap memory. Whatevs, says the computer, and pick your poison here, folks. Functional programming, okay, whatever. So my question is this: why vibe code with a language that has humans' convenience and ergonomics in view? Or put it that way, wouldn't a language designed for vibe coding naturally dispense with much of this of what is convenient and ergonomic for humans in favor of what is convenient and ergonomic for machines? Why not have us just write C, or why not x86 assembly? Now, at this point, you will want to say that the need for human understanding isn't erased entirely thereby. Some version of this argument has merit. It's the merit I would put into this. But I would remind you that if you really vibe code for real, you already don't understand a great deal of what you're producing. But if you look carefully, I would say this is also true. But if you look carefully, you will notice that it doesn't struggle with the undefined behavior in C, or with making sure that all memory is properly freed. I have not seen this yet, but we'll see. Or with off by one errors. It sometimes struggles to understand what it is that you actually want, but it rarely struggles with the actual execution in code. Maybe. It's better than you at keeping track of those things in the same way that the compiler is better at optimizing. I have not seen this. I honestly haven't seen this. When I get a large enough code base, I actually think it's way worse at keeping track of those things. And it chronically, in a large code base, recreates functions that already exist because it's not in its context and it didn't pull the entire code base into the context. I have not had this experience right here that it's actually better at these things. I don't know. I'm not sure. Now, again, I haven't run the AI games for a year, so maybe the AI games are going to prove me all completely wrong in this. 5.2 is the best model out there so far. It passed some kickflip tests or something like that. Is C the ideal language for vibe coding? I think I could mount an argument for why it is not. But surely Rust is even less ideal, to say nothing of Haskell or OCaml or even Python. All of these languages, after all, are for people to read. And so this is actually... I'm going to have a really firm argument here, and the answer is no. So Rust is about safety, right? And what did we just talk about agents? We need external safety mechanisms to make them accurate, right? So you have linters, you have these checks, you have compilation errors. I actually think that a language with really strong feedback is probably the best thing for a vibe coding tool. So I would say you maybe take Rust and make it even more extreme, more accurate, more correct, more whatever. And that's probably your best vibe coding language out there, right? Not something designed not to be read, because you also, if you're running to vibe code, you're also wanting something that you can check if you want. So it should be as simple to read as possible. It should be as accurate as possible to feed into that agent engine. Again, when you're talking about vibe coding, this is all built on those agents. So I would strongly disagree with this. I suppose what I'm getting at here is that if vibe coding is the future of software development, and it is, then why bother with languages that were designed for people who are not vibe coding? Shouldn't there be some such a thing as a vibe-oriented programming language? One probably is that such a language truly would be executable pseudocode beyond even the most extravagant fever dreams of the most earnest Pythonist. It shows you what it is doing in truly pseudocode, but all the while it's writing assembly. Or perhaps it's something like the antithesis of literate programming. You write a literary document expressing ideas about methodology, and the AI produces machine code. Perhaps your job as a programmer is mostly running tests that verify this machine code, or maybe a VOIPL is really a certain kind of language that comes closer to natural language, but with certain easily learned set of idioms and expressions. Now, obviously, the reason a large language model focused on coding is good at JavaScript and C++ is perhaps because it has trained on billions of lines of code in those languages, along with countless forum posts, Stack Overflow debates, and so on. Bootstrapping a VoIP presents a certain kind of difficulty because there's no training data for it, right? The thing is, these languages don't create new things. That's like the thing people don't understand is they're specifically designed not to create new things. They're designed to regurgitate old things. So you'd have to build a bunch of training data for this. But then one also suspects that LLMs are already being trained in some future version of this language because so many programmers are already groping their way towards a system like this, and the virtue in the fact that so many of them are already vibe coding production level systems. Are many people vibe coding production level systems? That terrifies me. One second, gotta ban some people. It's that time stream of cheap viewers. Cheap viewers. Fantastic. What are your all thoughts? I find some statements here to be unfounded. Like I don't want cheap viewers. I thought the viewers were supposed to pay me, not me pay the viewers. Feels like Twitch has got it all backwards. So backwards. It's amazing. Let me pay the viewers. I'm not asking for money. I'm not asking for money. I bet there are vibe coded production systems. Do you think they're 100% vibe coded, Russell? The other thing that I would say is that just because one of these exists doesn't mean that it's stable and has proven track record of stability. It doesn't mean that it won't get hacked. It doesn't mean all of these types of things that exist out there. It doesn't mean that their change management is going to be good. It doesn't mean that once you have the first thing that you're going to be able to iterate quickly on it. Because like I said, large code bases, I think it tends to struggle with. The other thing that I've seen it struggle with, and something I've been trying to work on, is we have a large API, right? And so there's a lot of services with their APIs, and we have a central place to put all of their API specs. So the AI can pull all of those API specs, but it seems to have trouble matching what APIs in other services to call instead of recreating the system internally or things like that. So like taking that system and moving it forward feels difficult. Mojo maybe fits the niche of vibe coding, reliability of Python with some of the safety of Rust. Maybe. I actually would argue that you want a language with all of the safety built in, because that's what's going to make the vibe coding better, right? This is going into that probability statistics. Like, the more accurate we can force it to be, the better. I think probably a functional language, like a mathematically accurate language and provable language, is probably the correct thing to program to vibe code in. That would be like, you're going to get the best feedback. You're going to get the best runtime or compile time errors. You're going to get the best of all of those with something that's the strictest for humans as well. Now, you could make it less readable for humans, but when you need to go in there and fix it as a human, like, what does it do? I like, it's got to be human readable. So far, I've never seen a system that's not going to need to be updated by a human. All of our machines has to be fixed by a human. I have yet to see a car that I haven't had to go in and fix. And you know what? This is why I hate German cars. I literally hate German cars. If you go in and try to work on them, they are not friendly for human readability. They are not friendly to work on. They put bolts where you can't get a hand to undo a bolt. It's the worst. It's the absolute worst. Ugh. German cars. Oh my gosh. This structure of my goodness, reading is hard. The structure and interpretation of computer programs is 833 pages. I'm kind of interested in reading it though. Oh, is this some is this like OCaml? It looks like OCaml or Clojure. Probably Clojure. All right, let's talk about some open source news. Is Schema? Oh, it's Schema. Okay. I've never really done much with Schema. I didn't go to school for software engineering. So that makes me incredibly bad at Perl and Schema and Clojure. All right. A cleaner Lisp than common Lisp. Let's talk about the Linux Foundation, announcing the foundation of Agentic AI Foundation. The AAIF, that's how you pronounce it, is AAIF. That's the only appropriate way of pronouncing the AAIF. I'm sorry, I saw that and I was like, my goodness, I can't help but make fun of that a little bit. Now, what you might be surprised by in this is, and I think this is a brilliant move. This is a brilliant move. Is the MCP was moved to the Linux Foundation. So it was donated to the Linux Foundation, and I think that actually is a really good move. So before moving to the Linux Foundation, Anthropic actually created the Model Context Protocol, or MCP, which is what a lot of people call it. So the MCP protocol, gosh dang it, I can't, the MC protocol is basically what a lot of agents are operating off of, and is the standard that was set out by Anthropic. Now, I actually think that this was a really, really good move, because putting the MCP under the Linux Foundation gets rid of any worries about Anthropic itself. I think that, some people would say it's divesting the MCP. You could make speculations like that. But I actually think that if you're looking for the most adoption, especially from other big players, putting it in some neutral ground like the Linux Foundation is a really smart move. Now, did the Linux Foundation have to go and create the AAIF? No, they didn't have to, but they did. And so now they have a foundation formally formed for agentic AI. Now, will there be more than just the MCP in there? I don't know. We'll see if there's anything else that they cultivate beyond the MCP. I think that they're obviously saying that they're wanting to do something more with that, but we'll have to wait and see. I think it's a good move. I'm glad that the Linux Foundation has it. Was that meant to sound like a Borat? No, it was not. I was not impersonating Borat. I was not. I just don't know how to pronounce it other than AAIF. I was not trying to impersonate anybody. I have actually never seen Borat. I've seen a commercial for it, but I have not actually seen the movie. I do know what it is. So I'm now terrified that you thought that it was a Borat impersonation. Terrified. Absolutely terrified. Yep. So won't ever pronounce it that way again. I will pronounce it as the AAIF. AAIF. That sounds like it came straight out of Dune. But I will, all right. Anyways, that's basically it. There is this open source local first AI agent framework that combines. Goose was by Square, so Goose is now going more open source. I haven't leveraged Goose before, but yeah. Anyways, that's it for this for the Linux Foundation. Now, the Apache Software Foundation has announced a new top-level project, which I was kind of excited about, and I thought you guys should be a little bit excited about yourself. Weiang, is... I don't know how to pronounce it properly either. I've always said Weiang, but who knows if that's the proper way of pronouncing it. I don't know. I haven't talked to people on it. It's probably a common word that I just have never seen written before. That being said, it's an interesting project. I actually think that it's a really cool project. So basically, it's a platform independent, cross-platform analytic platform. So it allows you to perform analytics across machines, across platforms. I've not actually ever used it, but it was now promoted. Like the whole thing here was that they became top level projects. I'm much more familiar with the CNCF, but this is like the levels of stability and maturity, and it has reached that level of maturity. And it seems like a really interesting project that could be really useful, especially if you're doing really large, sufficiently advanced statistical analysis machines. Like, it seems like something that you might want for a sufficiently advanced statistical analysis machine. So, anyways, kudos to them. I've been watching some open source project. I think we haven't been watching enough of these things. I feel like I need to be trying. I feel like I've been so involved in trying to test AIs that I haven't gotten to test some of these new open source projects. I don't know. It feels like that to me. Talking about new open source things, Litestream VFS. So we've used Litestream in the past, which has been pretty cool because we used it to replicate SQLite database. So our Twitch announcements, for example, are in a SQLite database, and we use Litestream to replicate that. So I'm Ben Johnson, and I work on Litestream at Fly.io. Litestream is the missing backup resource system for SQLite. It's free, open source software. Anyone can run, and you can read more about it here. Again, with sandwiches, assume we've got an SQL database of sandwich ratings, and we're backed up with Litestream to an S3 bucket. Now, on our local host, load up AWS credentials and an S3 path to our environment, open SQLite, and SQLite is now working on that remote database defined by the Litestream backup files in the S3 path we've configured. We can query it this way. This is Litestream VFS. It only runs SQLite hot off an object storage URL as long as you can load the shared library. R3 builds for you. It will work with your application the same way it does with SQL Shell. So this is actually like a really cool update to this, where basically you can run hot off an object storage URL. So basically SQLite, instead of like running locally and instead of like having everything backed up to an S3 where it can back up, you literally run it off of the SQL storage, which I thought was a cool update. I thought this was kind of cool, where you no longer need the local file storage. Now, it might be faster if you're like really burning down the SQLite. If you're like really have like hot reads and you want really, really fast reads, my assumption is this is probably not for you. But a lot of people that are using SQLite, I'm assuming, do it with like, my assumption is that you're not doing it for like super high performance. You could, and in that case you'd want to. But this was really cool. If you're looking at doing something like this for a small proof of concept project, I highly recommend it. I think you should go check it out. Now, while we're shouting out open source projects, one of the longest standing, most impressive projects I have seen in open source isn't really anything for tech, I know, but I needed to give them a shout out because I really think what they have achieved is fantabulously impressive, is Blender 5.0. Blender has done some amazing things throughout the years, and they released another major version. Again, nothing about tech here. We don't really need to go more. I wanted to give them a shout out because like I do think it's one of the most impressive open source projects out there. There's a lot of impressive open source projects. I think Blender stands on its own two legs for a lot of reasons. You know, like you could look at the CNCF and Kubernetes, but it has a ton of corporate backing for people that, you know, actually leverage it to make money or make money by selling it. But it's an impressive project in of itself. Blender itself is much more humble, and for me, in that way, is much more impressive. It stands up there with, you know, Blender and Linux. I'm trying to think of Blender, Linux, and Rust. Probably my three most impressive open source projects. Blender is probably only two major versions from being an operating system. That is not a false statement. It can do so much stuff. Anyways, it continues to impress in just what it does. Yeah, those are, it's in like the top 10 at least of open source projects. It's been around for a long time. It does a ton of really cool stuff. It has a cool community of people who like monkeys. Yeah, anyways, just wanted to give them a shout out. Not that any of us are artistically, you could possibly make an operating system. Can we vibe code an operating system in Blender? Is that what we need to do next? The Blender agent for coding. Oh my goodness, this now seems like something we have to do. Something that I saw, another open source project, not brand new, but an open source project. I try to keep you all abreast of open source things that come out that I see. I saw this, this project, an enterprise grade open source framework, Endil. I don't know how to pronounce it. Eddie. We're going to call it Eddie. Eddie. Eddie enables developers to rapidly build and deploy the most powerful Gen AI application. So basically what it is it's an AI agent server. So I looked it up a little bit. I was trying to understand it off of its GitHub, and it is a server for your agent. So it helps you, it says build, but really my understanding was deploy agent-based services and manage those agent-based services. And so I think it's actually a really cool project. Does it survive? Or, a lot of these really new things, I feel like they kind of paved the way. At first we had cat, and now we have bat. Bat is just a superior cat. There's actually literally no reason to use cat, because bat is just a superior cat. But bat came around because of everything we learned from cat, and every single time we catted a binary or something like that. So like a lot of the times these founding products pave the way for just a better service as we learn from them. Kubernetes isn't the first orchestrator out there. Kubernetes is built on top of a ton of orchestrators that were good in their own right with our knowledge at the time of how we do computers and software. Wooshaw, it's good to see you. So anyways, whether this is the thing or this is the thing that we learn from, I don't know. It looked cool. I want to read more about it, though. Yeah. Lots of Python, though. Ugh, I don't love Python. Okay, and then I found bottom, which is just a better top. Yeah, this looks so cool. It's written in Rust, of course. Of course, Rust is written in... of course, it's written in... you should go check out bottom. It looks so cool. Shout out to an open source community. If you have a project that you'd like to be featured in this time, please let me know. I like shouting out cool little open source projects. And bottom looks pretty cool. It does. So you should go install it. If you're on Arch, all you have to do is I'm installing it right now. Is just oh no. Oh, I hate Qt6. I'm gonna have to delete something. Ooh, we have interesting. Anyways, all you have to do is go install it. I gotta check out my system now. Something be broken. Stick around after the news for Merrick tries to fix his computer live on Twitch. Merrick, are you aware of the site Terminal Trove? No. Terminal Trove. Oh, cool. This is kind of cool. Oh, look, we can switch it to just Rust projects because we only want Rust. I actually don't care what the thing is written in. Can I random it? Can I spin a random? Is there like I don't want alphabetical, I just want like random. Do you guys remember what was it? There's a thing I used when I was a child that just took you to a random website. It was like a toolbar. Probably the worst thing to ever download. What was it? It was like a plugin. It's probably terrible, but it just you click the button and it just took you to a random website. Why can't I remember the name of that? I spent way too much time. Use the list page to scroll your mouse wheel and then stop. Okay, we'll do that. We'll do that. Let's do compact show 64. Oh wait, is there a list? Okay, here we go. Ready? My wheel doesn't free spin, right? Okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to close my eyes. I'm going to scroll down, up, about, something like this, something like this. I can't see anything. I'm not looking. All right, here we go. Oh, it's all Git stuff. It's all Git stuff. Okay. Git who is something I need. I'm always wondering who did this. Go llama, go manage your llama models. Okay, I gotta check that out. Go llama. Glow. I'm just going. Somebody says with pizzazz. I gotta see what that means. Let's see. Okay, starting here. Pretty fast. Okay, if it's not blazing fast, I don't care. It needs to be blazing fast before I start caring. A CLI tool that helps you keep track of multiple Git repositories. Recall your SSH sessions. That sounds terrifying. An interactive GitHub dashboard for your terminal. An interactive GitHub dashboard for your... That sounds interesting and terrifying. A CLI tool to fetch GitHub user information. Remote repository management made easy. Command line tool to manage multiple Git. Everything is Git in this. Git. I'm sorry. I'm just going to move on from Git stuff. This is a terrible scroll. A cross-platform top glances. It's in Python. I don't want that. I don't have enough memory. I only have 61 gigs of memory, so I can't run Python. It's just not impossible. It's just not possible. A Vim-inspired, privacy-first TUI note-taking app with multiple that looks like interesting. GoBang, a cross-TUI database management tool written in Rust. A cross-platform TUI database management. What database does it manage? I need to check that out. A TUI document for Docker management. GoDAP. A database migration tool written in Go. The enhanced Linux password manager for Teams. GoPass. I think we've covered GoPass before. Oh, they have a new. I could have just done new. That's true. What is this? GoPass? Interesting. Okay, let's see. Go Llama. Let's see. What is this? Go manage your Olama models. What does it do? Oh, you can link models to LM Studio. That's interesting. Oh, ooh, a comprehensive VRAM estimation. That is actually something that I've been missing. I want this one. Okay, I want this one. Glow. I want some pizzazz. Okay, this does look pizzazzy. I don't hate this. So we might leave glow. We might leave glow on there. Although I'm in Vim most of the time, I'm not like looking through. I wonder, does glow work with Vim? I wonder. I bet you we can get it to work with it. GitHub Dash. Okay, so this is interesting. Just like the look through the GitHub stuff. I kind of like this. And it just uses the GitHub command line. That's interesting. I'm not upset about this. We're finding stuff. GHQ, remote repository management made easy. I don't care. I don't care, actually. I really don't care. I do take a lot of notes. This is basically just Vim, though, right? It's basically just Vim. Go bang. Oh. Okay. I have some stuff to check out. This is cool. I'm gonna probably give these a shout out in some of the streams. At least ones that I find interesting. I'm gonna keep the new list and the terminal trove. Cool. All right. That's it for the news. Does anybody want to stick around and see me try to fix my system that I probably broke? If you do, I need to make a drink really quickly. I'm gonna make a drink. I have probably about another hour of stream, and then I have some stuff I gotta get done. So let's see if we can't fix it in about an hour. Why not? You all play. See, like I said, my English is just terrible. I have the low level English. I don't have that professor English, that command of the English language where you just demand esoteric words. Why don't you guys play some Wordle? Improve your vocabulary. And then, just so you know, during the AI games, you're watching the stream serendipitously. Oh gosh. Okay. I hate you all. For the AI games, 27th, 28th, and then 31st, we will have an increased difficulty on all Wordle games played. Increased difficulty. Just be prepared. Yeah. If I can swing it, I'm also going to get it where an AI is going to make a guess too. So you guys are going to play versus the AI. If I get the time in the next 2 weeks to add that feature, I'm going to add that feature so that you guys play versus the AI, which I think would be fun. Okay. Let's play a game of Wordle while I go make a drink. 8th century religious words are so totally being brought back. Russell. Absolutely being brought back. I don't know what you're complaining about. Look, I'm just going to throw it out there that you guys got to get good. You have 2 weeks to plan for it. The Heart Dictionary is insane. We learned so many words playing the Heart Dictionary. It's a ton of fun. The Heart Dictionary is hard. The Heart Dictionary is very difficult. It's really fantastic. I enjoy it. I'm a fond enjoyer of the Heart Dictionary. I'm going to throw a little music on while you guys wait for me. I don't have a Christmas album. I should get a Christmas. Okay, so for the AI games, I have 3 of 5 songs. I'm releasing an AI album for the AI games. I have 3 of 5 songs done. They're pretty fantastic. They're pretty fantastic. They're terrible. They're absolutely terrible. Let's see how this sounds. I don't know if I can play whatever Christmas album you're wanting me to play without getting in trouble. So while I go make this, I will go. I'm gonna go make a cup of tea. If you guys haven't played this, if you just put 5 letters in and it's a valid word, it will count as a guess, and the time will start ticking. So basically, the time doesn't start for that round until somebody makes a guess, and then you have 30 seconds to get your guess in. And you're trying to win. You're trying to do it. Or maybe you're not. Maybe you're trying to sow the seeds of discourse. I don't know what you're getting at. Anyways, I'm going to go make a cup of tea or coffee. I'm not sure which one yet, but I'm going to go do that. Have fun. I'll be back in about 10 minutes. Thanks, everyone. All right. Sorry, it took so long. So if links wasn't a word, oh wow, that was a good guess. That's not my fault. I'm using the official Wordle library. I'm using the right now. Right now, I'm using the official Wordle library. Check this out. That's gonna be the right. Yours is better. Yours is better. I couldn't think of anything else. We've covered how I'm not good at this game. Wow. Spire? I think it's Spire. I vote with Russell. I was trying to think of words. I'm really bad at this game. Like, my mind cannot see this and be like, Spire. Russell does it so well. It's very impressive. If I had to say one good thing about Russell, it would be his ability to play Wordle. If I had to give compliments to Twitch, which I like doing, this is Russell's things. How about one bad thing? We are not a Wordle community. Okay. I feel like I have done this before. I know what's happening here. His inability to love Go. So his one good thing is that he's amazing at Wordle, and his one bad thing is his inability to embrace what is known as Go. Like, and him touching your Kubernetes cluster ever. Period. Ever. He is good at trashing your Kubernetes cluster. So I don't know if that goes in the good thing or the bad thing. It depends on your perspective. I'm not sure if it depends on your perspective of whether you're the person that has to fix that cluster or if you're the person that wants that cluster broken. On whether it's a good skill or bad skill. I can't really say on that one. Perspective matters. Okay, so I have... So this is an interesting thing because this is like a conflict in the package manager, right? So we have like all this user include KD doc widgets Qt6, and it exists in the file system and is already owned by KD doc widgets Qt6. Now, what I wish that this would do, and last time it didn't do this, is I didn't know who was trying to update it. So effectively, one of these things is trying to also install maybe a different version of KD doc widgets. What would be helpful is if it would tell me which one of these things. I'm guessing it's one of the WX widgets, right? Like, this would make sense that KD doc widgets was being installed. Error, failed to commit transaction, conflicting files. It doesn't tell me. KD doc widgets exist in the file system, owned by KD doc. Oh. So is this the thing that's trying to install it, and this is the thing that this? Okay. So we have a KD doc widgets. Let's see. Where's KD doc widgets? Oh, we're not in, is it a, right here. Okay. So now we need to find who owns, like, who depends on these. I didn't install KD doc widgets. This is something I always forget. Not cargo. I always forget how to search for what uses a dependency. So Arch, package, Arch, Package depend. I want to find what packages depend on a dependency, right? QI lists the dependencies of an installed package, but I want to do the inverse, right? This is what I want. Wait, QI, isn't that what they used up here? Okay, so it's just QI. Let's see. Required by none. Let's try pack tree. I did Q little I. That's what I did. I did capital Q lower I. Oh, is it a capital I? Are they wrong on that? I mean, maybe. I don't think they are. No, I had done it correctly. The weird thing is, it doesn't say anything is it's not saying anything is like nothing requires it. Required by is none on KD doc widgets Qt6. So what I'm wondering is if something used to depend on it doesn't depend on it anymore and it didn't get cleaned up. Oh, is there an install reason on here? Well, no, this is what I'm wondering though. Is that if Pacman, does Pacman not clean up if, let's say my thing has a Qt6, you know, a KD doc widgets dependency, and then I switch it from KD doc widgets to another thing. Does it not delete this? So like, did they switch to just KD doc widgets and now is it conflicting with itself? I wonder who owns KD doc widgets, or why is it getting down? Right, I don't have KD doc widgets installed yet. So can I just delete KD doc widgets? I think that's what I'm going to do. QT. It feels like something installed it and then left it and didn't get cleaned up, which is surprising. I would have expected I would have expected Pac-Man or Yay to clean up the when dependencies aren't needed anymore. I guess it doesn't. I wonder if there's a way that I can run like a system upgrade where it also cleans up unused dependencies. Let me look for that because I'd like to do that. Yay, Arch clean up unused dependencies. I want to run this right here, see what this returns. Interesting. So maybe this is just what I need to be doing now. So these are all orphaned repository things. So my understanding is that if I was to look at any one of these, it wasn't installed by me and it was installed by a dependency. That would be the defining thing, right? Let's actually test that out. Yay dash QI C client. Oh, maybe it's see, that is running. I was gonna say, it looks like some of these things are direct installs. Like, I mean, a lot of these look like dependencies. Hello from a location that's pretending to be Canada. Did you guys? Oh, 0 F2C. Yeah, it's supposed to be that tomorrow because we're deciding to roleplay as Canada 2 years in a row. Like, we decided that, like, oh, that was so fun. How about we do it again? Oh, wasn't that a blast last year? when we had 2 feet of snow for 2 months. Why don't we just do it again? Wait, was VS Code on here? Visual Studio Code bin debug was. Installed as a dependency of another package. First, Russell, that was like a tiny brag. Like, I've been to the top of the Alps. Second, it makes me super jealous because you've been to the top of the Alps. But also 28 is super cold, especially if the air was thinner. I don't know if that makes it warmer or colder. I feel like maybe heat transfer, thinner air, it doesn't transfer as much. So maybe it's actually not as cold. I have no idea. It feels colder though. I just feel like it would feel colder. It would be hard on your lungs too. Cold air is rough on your lungs. That's maybe one thing that you don't realize. Yeah, it was cold. Touche. Anything at 28, negative 28. I've experienced negative 40 when I was in St. Petersburg, Russia. And that was brutal. That was sea level though. So it was warmer. It feels warmer, I'm pretty sure. Which happens to be negative 40 Fahrenheit too. They convene there, if you didn't know that. They're the same. Oh, I didn't mean to click that. Yeah, anyway, they're the same. We can be unified at negative 40. At negative 40, we can all get together and talk about the same temperature. And it's amazing. Skiing is a lot of work. I'll throw that out there. People are like, oh, you're just sliding down the hill. Skiing is actually some work. Uh, 3 years ago, we got to negative 15. What is negative 15? I think that's close to what you had. Yeah, negative 26-ish. Yeah. We don't usually get to negative 15. Negative 15 is kind of one of those freakish polar vortex things. We don't normally do that though. Okay, one second. I was looking through this. FD. You said that there is FD was also listed here. Let's see. FDF and FD. Installed as a dependency of another package. Yeah, I don't think I installed those two things. Not saying that I haven't leveraged them, but I don't actually think... I think they're transient dependencies. QDTQ. Let's look up what QDTQ is actually doing. QDT... What was it? QDTQ. So this is... it's okay. I'm just... Okay. So then if we do Pac-Man help, let's do yay help. It doesn't like running while this is running. Okay, cool. Check out what we can do. We can do bottom now. Check it out. I've never used bottom before. I just found it. So don't judge me on that. I have no idea how to get out of the process tab and do anything else in here, but it's cool. Look at my CPU. Like, look at that. It looks like a mountain range, actually. You see like the mountains in the foreground, the background mountains, the battlefield, the battle plane. The GPU graph? Where's the GPU? I don't see the GPU graph here. I see a CPU graph. How do I get to the GPU graph? Oh, the CPU. I just yeah. The CPU graph looks like a scene. Yeah, it literally does. I agree with that. It's a mountainscape. Okay, so on Pac-Man, should I run? Like, is it just that you should run this every once in a while? I want to look at what QQTD. Save it to a file. So one of these is just printing it to the terminal. Wait. Why do we not need the T? What is T doing? What's the T? Yeah, Russell, this is like the third or fourth time where I've had to go and clean up, and I usually just go and delete whatever the offending thing is. I'm wondering if it's a better practice to have like a once a quarter script that runs. You could like cron job it even. It'd be cool to do it with like a system upgrade. Oh, you can freeze it. That's cool. I was supposedly you could do a bunch of stuff with this, but I don't know how. Oh, I can. Oh, you gotta click. Okay. You can follow a CPU. That's cool. CPU 17 is you know the like that one really into exercise, whereas like CPU 19 chill, much chiller. CPU 17 is like no, we gotta go, got caffeine, going. CPU 10 is nah, can't be bothered. Cannot be bothered. I'll have to learn to use bottom. Oh, I can actually like scroll back in history. Oh, interesting. This is cool that it captures this. I'm actually going to run this on the DGX Spark because I think this information will be interesting to understand a bit. Okay, cool. Oh, this is what I want. Here we go. Query packages. Oh, okay, so D is list packages installed as dependencies. So we could just do Q and D and see everything that's listed as a dependency. So those are all of our installed packages that are transient dependencies. Cool. Not the top level ones that we installed. Show less information for query and search. Okay, so that's what the little Q is for, is because we want just the main list. That makes sense. List packages not optionally required by any. So this is like an optional thing. And so if it's listed as optional, we probably don't want to get rid of it. So that makes it say, like, that seems safe when you do it like the QQTD. You don't want the optional. Okay. And then this is getting passed into RSU. Right, because RSU is going to remove it. That's what the R is for, is to remove packages. And then S is going to remove their transient dependencies that don't have things. Remove unnecessary dependency and remove unneeded packages. Right. Okay. So this makes sense. Will I remember this before the next time that happens? Probably not. I actually feel like something I might do in 2026 is build a list of like helpful arch like things. Like, and this would be one of those, is like a delete. This is how you clean up your transient dependencies, because installing doesn't do that for you, which is something I didn't even realize until today. I guess I could have critically thought about it, because I've run into this problem before, right? The other one that, like, it makes sense, but it's like you wouldn't necessarily think about it, is like is setting make flags to nproc. Like, if you're compiling code in there, you should set make flags to nproc. Otherwise, it's just going to compile on one core. Especially if you're doing like a system update, I almost always set make flags to the jobs equal to nproc. So I want to actually... I think that's actually something that would be really helpful to a community. And maybe that this already exists, but if it doesn't, I'm just going to make a markdown with all of these like helpful, like, oh, and then I can also copy and paste from there. So I don't have to remember. Oh. Cool. All right. I think I'll call it there. I have a lot of work on the AI games to do. And I got stuff for work to take care of, so I need to jump on that and get some family stuff done. I might stream throughout this next week. I'll probably do it in the evening because I have next week off. I'll probably stream in the evening some, just as I work on some of the AI game stuff that I wanted to add. Just some of the code stuff, like there's some stuff to the code. I know some of it I'm keeping secret, so I'm working on that, not on stream. But there's some of it, like in the AI arena, I realized, I meant to add this last week, but like I said, this last week I worked a absolute metric butt ton. But the AI arena doesn't support Anthropic. Actually, that's a good question. Is there somebody else I should support other than Anthropic for the AI arena? I have Anthropic, ChatGPT, and Ollama. And I was also thinking about Gemini. Is there one other than Gemini and Anthropic, ChatGPT, or OpenAI? Is there somebody else, and Ollama, somebody else that should be supported? We can probably get that done. It's not too bad to add a new provider, providing that they have like a library. Although Ollama was done just through the HTTP API, it wasn't terrible to do. Probably not the best. 1 star coder? No. We actually have 2 star coder because Olama supports it. So Olama has 2 star coder. Actually, what is it? It's star coder. Star coder. It's star coder 2. Should I bring back star coder? Because I could bring back star coder. Should we do star coder? I always forget that we add the numbers. I always refer to it as 1 star coder and 2 star coder. I feel so bad. If anybody that worked on those ever watched this, I always forget that it's star coder. Maybe we tried to bring back star coder. Star coder gave us a pretty good laugh. I didn't download it, but it's not a very big model, so I think I can download it. We can bust out the 15 billion parameter. Yeah, that's not going to be a problem. We'll bring back 1 star coder. And we're also going to be giving a try to the 2 star coder. So I have the 15 billion parameter model down. I have these. I just downloaded the new Minstrel coding AI. I also got Olama Scout down. There's also not Minstrel. I'm free. The IBM one. I want to say Granite. Yeah, Granite 4. Now, I had a bit of problems with Granite 4. I can run the smaller ones. And I don't know if it's a bug in the DGX Spark, but it's not even here anymore. Where's the bigger one? The 32 billion. This is the one. I was running out of memory with the small h, the Granite 4 small h. And I don't know if it was a bug in this, in the Granite 4 small h, or if it was a bug in the DGX Spark. This was running out of memory, which was surprising because it's supposed to be good with memory. So anyways, we'll probably just try the Granite 4 latest. That's what I have. It seems to be, I don't know how many, but we're going to go with it. It doesn't have the 1 million context. I don't know if that makes a matter. Makes a matter? I don't know. These confuse me. This is smaller, but supports a larger context. So this one doesn't support a high context for some reason, but I'm not sure what would cause that, right? Like what causes this one to handle less of a context than this one? That's something I need to look into. I actually don't understand what causes that. So that's something I need to look into. I need to learn more. Next year we're gonna actually train our own. I want to do more training. We actually did some training already on it. I actually want to do some more training. Also, at the start of the year, the thing that we're going to do is I'm going to get long-term subscribers the ability to SSH to it for a little bit. So any long-term supporters, if you wanted to play around on the DGX Spark and see what it can and can't do, you're going to have basically you all are going to have unfettered access for your allotment time. So you'll be able to do whatever you really want. I will warn you that it is behind a network firewall, so I will see the network, so don't do anything illegal, because I will stop that very quickly. Anyways, so anyways, I will get you access to it, though. You'll get to play around with it. All right. That being said, I think I'm done for today. We got the OS fixed. Let me know if you guys think of an AI that I should add to the AI arenas so I can download them. That's easy enough. So if it's like a self-hosted Olama, I got it. If it's like a provider, let me know. I'm trying to hit the big players. We're gonna only have 3 to 4 days, so I don't know that like I can do every single provider, but I'm trying to hit the big ones. So, all right. Thanks everybody for joining. I really appreciate you all. Have a fantastic weekend. I hope that your weekend goes better than any other weekend this year so far. Yeah. Until we get to the AI games, which will be your best weekend of the year. So hopefully they get better each